a previous lesson, we learned how to unwrap or create a UV from UVW from the projection. You can go to the UV edit or you can go to your own layout that I created before. For navigating in the UV window, you can scrolling your mouse or holding Alt and middle mouse button to pan. Let's begin from the simple object. First, cylinder. You can see it's automatically, because of the projection, create a UV for that, but it's not real UV. We have to create that because it's a parametric. You can see if you change it, it will be changed. The UV is not changing because it's a parametric, and the UV does not mean for that because it's always changing. You have to make it editable, and now it's create a UV for it. We delete that because we want to create more offset. First, you can use from the projection, but you can see the unwrap is turned off because you have to go to the polygon or also in edge mode, because in edge mode we have to create seams, a part that we want to cut and unwrap them. So in this object, UV is a little bit tricky. You have to understand what happened. You can see this object is two caps and a cylindrical body. In this case, we want to using UV unwrap and with its settings. If you are in an edge mode, we have another object here, restrict to polygon selection. For example, we select a polygon and it just restricts to that polygon and unwrap it, and does not make unwrap for other. But we are in that. Or auto realign in the UV, or use a pin. I will show you what's the pin. So first we have to select that and disconnecting two parts. If we don't use any seams and just unwrap, you can see we have an error, no seams or boundary do we have, and it's created bad UVW. You can select it and just delete that. So make a seams, we want to cut this. You can go to the border and double click to cut them, and holding shift and double click. So we have selected our edges, and you select the object, then select the edges, and you tell the software okay, in these edges, please tear my object apart, and boom. You can see it just create two caps like this, and it's correct, but the body is not correct. So for the body, first I want to select all the object, and you can see you can select all objects, rectangle, and boom, and select all of them. And you can use tolerant selection to select every polygon that is touched, and you can see it's selected some of the caps, and now you can see all of the objects are selected. And you can see in a UV. It's very interesting. If you, for example, use the move tool, you can select this polygon that is corresponding to UV, and it tells you, okay, this polygon is here. They are connecting to each other, but they are different. These are 3D polygon. You can see if you move it here, it does not change in the UV. Or if you move the object here and disconnect it, you can see it does not disconnect, because it's just in the UV. It's a flat version of the 3D. So these are good, and I want to just create, going to filter and work on it. If you want, you can turn off this safe mode. You can select, click and drag and select all of this polygon, and in here, if you go into the polygon, you can go to, we selected that, go into the edge mode, and in its settings we have restrict to the polygon selection. I just want to restrict to this polygon that I selected. Okay, don't okay that, We cancel it, and here we have to create a seam. For example, from this part, I want to open this cylinder. So you can go to the edge, move and click, and Control Shift click. If you holding that, you can see, oh, it's create a border. I don't like that. Or you can use select, for example, pass selection. It's very simple, but you can click and drag to select that, and everything is done. In a selection, we select a polygon in edge and unwrap that. You can see it just unwrap this, and it's nice. And you can pack them. I will show you more, but you can, for example, pack them, and it's packing automatically together. Just apply pack. I will show you all of the settings, and this simple image is done. But unfortunately, you can see this part is not continuing with this part. They are separate. And you can create a texture. This is an UV. This is a limitation of UV. You cannot continuously create UV layer. Or you can use another UV. You can deselect your UV, select cylinder, and you can create a new UV. In this case, I want deselect everything, and in the edge mode, I want to add this part. You can again go to the selection, pass selection. In this case, I'm going from this mode to the down, holding shift. And in this case, I open in this way. That's what happened here. You can select unwrap, and you can see it's creating such of these things. It's better to delete and not restrict the polygon selection, and hit OK. You can see it's unwrapping in this way, but we have a lot of distortion. To better seeing that, let's undo that and give a material to that. It's very simple. You can open the material. It open in down and simple material. I want to delete that because I want to go in standard version. It's take time to render our material. And add and click and drag a material on it, because we create a UV, and I want to attach material to that, to seeing distortion and what kind of the UV needs. You can make it something like that, and double click on that. In the color, you can assign a material, checkerboard material, something like this. Okay, simple, and drag and drop in texture. No. And now you can see we have this texture, and you can see this part is disconnected from this part, and we don't have any continuity here. You can see caps. But in another version of the UV, you can select the cylinder, going to the edge. We select this edge before in store there, and UV Unwrap. And you can see we have continuity, but a lot of deformation and distortion. You can see we have continuity here, but we have a lot of distortion here in these parts also. For example, we can select in polygon mode. You can see in these parts, the texture are creating. To see better the texture, you can go to the texture, It's an empty canvas or UV map. It's creating UV mapping for you here. Nice. You can see from this part, we have our seams. This is a limitation of UV. It's better to create the seams, the part that you are not seeing that. And you can see in this part, this UV is creating, and this UV. The work of the UV is this: you open your model, and it just mapping the texture based on the UV. And here, if you double click to all of your UV and scale and make it larger and smaller, something like that, you can see based on, for example, we are moving texture here, and you can see the UV is small and it does not change to the 3D model, and we have occupied a small part of the texture, so we have bad quality of the texture. But if you make it larger and larger and larger, let's just pack it, you can see we have a smaller, this UV island occupied more of the, this is one tile of the texture. This is your all texture come here, and based on the, for example, different part of texture, we can have a better quality of texture or not. We can delete it again and use my old version. Create seams from here, double click and double click, and holding shift to select seams here to cutting this way, and just UV unwrap. And you can see we have nice and straight UVs, but they are not connected to each other. You can see if you go to the polygon mode of your UV, you can use the polygon. These are also, they have polygon and edges. If you double click, you can select it and you can move it here. You can see it's moving based on the texture is constant, and you can move the UV island in with any part of the UV that you want. Or you can export these UVs, go into the Photoshop and paint it. But some 3D painter software there can paint over the object without any problem, without seeing the seams. There are body paint 3D or substance 3D painter. You directly paint. But if you want to go to the Photoshop and just assign the texture, you have this limitation from the seams. For example, you can see. So you have to understand this is UV and it's open your 3D model. So this is the second tool, UV Unwrap. And I explain all of these settings one by one. Don't worry. This is simplest way. Again, these modes are points, edge. You can move using 3D and this way. But for example, in this case, we are holding Control and create a new object. And you can see it's there. You can right click, Inset. You can see we have a model here. We have a new model, and you can go to the texture and empty that. We have new model here, and it automatically updates in a UV. Interesting. Nice. But it's bad. You can see it suddenly, it's maybe happen and change the your model. If you want to just work in UV without changing the 3D, you have to here go to text UV mode, this button, UV mode. And now you cannot select any edge, any point in 3D. You can see it, you cannot. But you can go and change the points and move the points in UV. I will show you when we want to adjust. These models are very easy. Nice. Let's go to other model and pack them. For example, spherical models. You can see it automatically created UV for that. We are exiting UV mode to create the seams and other things. Make sure it's editable. Make sure it's editable. And let's try that. Okay, it's automatically open the UV from this direction. But if you go to the UV map, you can see we have lots of bad distortion here. Okay, from this direction, we are deleting the UV and going to the texture and just empty canvas. Or you can assign your material to that. Okay. Something like this, you can open your model from this direction. So you go to the here, and in this case, it's better to use ring selection. No, sorry, to loop selection, and you can stop it at poles. Nice. You can see we create in this part the seams and just UV unwrap. You can see based on the seams, it's open something like that. If you want to open your model directly from a UV, you can come here and select this edge and UV unwrap again. Very simple. So we have two modes. You can open your model, Ctrl Z, in this part, means you can come back in here and select another loop from here, or it's hard to you can go to the UV and select also the U loop here, and then UV unwrap again. And most of the time restrict the polygon is off. It's better because sometimes you don't know, maybe you selected a polygon and if you click it does not work. So it's okay, and based on this part it's open and it's take this sphere into island of the polygons, the UV polygon, and then you can go to assign. It's just for visualize, and you can see it's have a nice in this part, but another limitation we can see the seams. Or you can open this part at the middle. Okay, let's doing that. Going to the textures and limitation, select it and select this loop from the middle of that and UV Unwrap. You can see in this case we have something like this, and you cannot see the seams here. We have nice, but let's go with the module, but we have the seam in the middle. This is all about the limitation of that. Okay, this is a sphere. Let's try another thing. For example, yeah, something like this torus. Make it editable, and you have to think which part do you want to create seam. You can see it's automatically created seams from this direction. So we have seams, and you can unwrap it, and we have something like this. Or you can pack it, or you can relax it to create texture for that. I will show you. And you can see we have nice but bad seams in the middle. In this case, for example, you want to render it, you have to assign the seams in the middle of here. For example, go to the edge mode and select select ring. Oh, I always make it loop, and go the seams inside. Open from that side and open from this side. The part that we want, holding shift to select the dice, and in this case, for example, you can render it from this angle. It's a limitation of UV. We can't see the seams. And okay, and now you can see a nice UV. But if you want to straighten things, we have a lot of tools here. You can select this part and select this part, holding shift, select this part, and we have UV straighten, something like that. It is straighten in its part. I will show you more. To align now, and you can see, and then you can select it and move these parts away. I will show you how to modify, and then you can relax it again. Okay. Okay, it's object. Just we are working with UV Unwrap. You learn it how to use that. Or if you want to cut from here, you can double click, select edge, and unwrap it. It's taking in two parts. Your just UV does not change your polygon in 3D. And it's a UV map. You can see it's nice. In this angle, we have a nice texture here. Right? Okay. Control Z, Control Z. You can see it's making back, and we have nice texture. But the seams in inside, and we cannot see that. It's a limitation of the UV. And that's it. So we are going to other tools. Please don't forget to visit our TutorialCells apps channel. In this channel, we are introducing Android application and learn how to use them.